I am Ava, 34 years old, and I thought my life was simple, straightforward, and happy. I had a job I enjoyed, a small but cozy home that I loved, and most importantly, I had Ben. Ben was my everything. We met when I was 27. He wasn't the type to sweep you off your feet in dramatic ways, but there was something about him. Something steady, something reassuring. He wasn't the romantic hero of novels, but he made me feel safe. 4 years, I thought that was enough. But I was wrong. I always thought that love was enough. And for the first few years, it was. Ben was everything I wanted in a partner. Gentle, thoughtful, and kind. He wasn't flashy or overtly romantic, but his love was steady and dependable. When we moved in together after dating for a year, it felt like the next logical step. He never asked for much, and neither did I. We were simple people with simple needs, or so I believed. The first few years of our marriage were nothing short of bliss. We found comfort in each other's company, enjoying our shared routines, the quiet evenings in, and the small moments that made life feel complete. But that was before the cracks started to appear. It was subtle at first. Ben would come home later than usual, his mind elsewhere. He'd retreat into his phone, and I, ever the trusting wife, would tell myself it was nothing. He was just tired, stressed from work, maybe even needing a little time to himself. But it didn't take long for those little moments to become more frequent, more significant. I began to notice that he was spending more time on his phone, texting late at night when he thought I was asleep. He would answer calls from unknown numbers, always with a hint of nervousness in his voice. The doubts crept in, but I pushed them aside. I trusted Ben. I had to trust him. I told myself that whatever was going on, it didn't matter. But one day, it all changed. One text message would alter everything. It happened on a quiet Thursday evening. Ben had fallen asleep on the couch while watching TV, his phone carelessly left on the coffee table next to him. I'd been cleaning up the kitchen, and for some reason, I couldn't help but glance at the screen. The name Rachel flashed up in bold letters. My heart stopped. Rachel. The name felt like a punch to my chest. Rachel was Ben's ex-girlfriend. The one he'd talked about occasionally, the one he'd said he would never get over. I had always brushed it off. After all, their relationship had ended years before we even met. Still, a part of me couldn't help but wonder, why was she messaging him now? I didn't open the text immediately. My hands were shaking, but I fought the urge to investigate further. Maybe I was overreacting. After all, Ben had always told me that his relationship with Rachel was long behind him, that it was just a chapter in his past. But my mind wouldn't quiet. The message nagged at me. So, I opened it. Hey, Ben. I miss our talks. How have you been? My stomach dropped. My first instinct was to throw the phone across the room. But instead, I put it back on the table, sat down, and stared at the message, numb. Why? Why after all these years? I felt betrayed, confused, and utterly lost. Why was she reaching out now? I thought we were happy. I thought everything between Ben and me was perfect. The next morning, I couldn't look at him the same way. I couldn't even bring myself to ask him about the message. I was terrified that if I did, it would open a door I wasn't ready to walk through. I told myself I was just being paranoid. But I wasn't. The message had planted a seed of doubt, and it was growing quickly. I told myself I wasn't going to snoop. I wasn't going to become one of those wives who checked her husband's phone, who didn't trust him. But every time Ben left his phone unattended, I found myself picking it up, glancing at it, and opening old conversations. His messages with Rachel seemed harmless enough at first, just friendly exchanges. But then I began to notice something troubling. There was a level of comfort in their conversations, a familiarity that was unsettling. It wasn't just friendly catching up. It was emotional, personal. She was asking about his day, his thoughts, his feelings. They were reconnecting in ways that felt intimate, and I couldn't deny it anymore. It wasn't just Rachel. Ben was acting different. He was distant, almost withdrawn. His affection for me felt forced. The more I dug, the more I found. Every night, his late-night messages with her became a secret I couldn't ignore. I had to know everything. I had to know if this was truly just a friendship or something more. Then, one night, Ben did something that shattered me completely. We had dinner together, but the entire time, I could feel him slipping away. His mind wasn't with me. It was elsewhere on Rachel, and that was when I finally confronted him. "Ben, who is Rachel?" I asked, my voice shaking. His eyes went wide, and for a split second, I saw guilt flash across his face. He tried to hide it, but I could see the truth in his eyes. "It's nothing, Ava. I swear. She's just an old friend. We talk sometimes, that's all." But I didn't believe him. I couldn't. The evidence was staring me in the face. The lies. The evasiveness. Why is she still texting you? Why does it feel like there's something more? Ben looked away, his expression unreadable. "Ava, it's not what you think. You're overreacting. She's a part of my past, yes, but that's all she is. A past." But I wasn't stupid. I could feel the emotional weight behind his words. He wasn't telling me the whole truth. And at that moment, something inside me broke. I wasn't enough. I had spent years convincing myself that I was everything Ben needed, but clearly, I wasn't. Rachel was still in his heart. She still had a place in his life, and I couldn't compete with that. Days passed in a blur. Ben begged me to forgive him, but I couldn't look at him the same way. I wanted to trust him, but how could I when everything felt like a lie? His words no longer reassured me. They only reminded me of how fragile our relationship was. I felt small. I felt invisible. And most of all, I felt utterly alone. The emotional toll was overwhelming. I became obsessed with finding answers, trying to understand what was really going on. I checked his phone. I checked his emails. I found nothing but more signs that something was wrong. Rachel's name kept popping up, always just under the surface. One afternoon, I found a message that broke me. It wasn't just a casual text anymore. It was something deeper, something that spoke of longing. "Ben, I've been thinking about us. I miss you. I wish things had turned out differently." It was simple. It was innocent. But it was devastating. In that moment, I realized that Ben hadn't fully let go of Rachel. That piece of his heart that I had worked so hard to fill was still with her. I confronted him again, this time demanding the truth. And when he finally admitted it, when he finally told me that he still had feelings for her, I thought I would collapse. "I don't know if I ever stopped loving her," he confessed. "I don't know if I can ever fully move on from her." The room seemed to close in on me. My heart shattered. Everything I thought I knew about our life together was a lie. Ben loved someone else. Ben had never truly let go of Rachel. I couldn't stay. I couldn't keep living in this lie. I was broken, but I knew I had to leave. I packed my things, left the house, and stayed with a friend for a while. I needed space to think, to breathe, to heal. The days that followed were the darkest of my life. I couldn't focus on anything. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. All I could think about was Ben and Rachel. Their love, their history. I wasn't enough. I never had been. But then, something changed. Slowly, I began to heal. I spent time alone, rediscovered things I loved, and began to find strength I didn't know I had. I wasn't just Ava, Ben's wife. I was Ava, a person in her own right. I started painting again. I started going to therapy. I started seeing the world through a different lens. I was no longer just someone defined by her relationship. I was me, and that had to be enough. Ben didn't give up. He came to see me, to talk, to apologize. And after weeks of distance, after weeks of soul-searching, I realized something. I wasn't ready to forgive him yet, but I wasn't ready to give up on us either. I didn't know if we could ever get back to where we were, but I knew one thing. I had to love.